So continuing on today with the Gemara and Eruvin Daf Yud Beis and Beis. So we're talking about when you can apply use of Lech and Korah on the edges of a mavoi to make it to allow you to carry within it. So Amar Nachman Naktinan Ezu Mavoi Shenitar Lech v'Korah Kol She'orko Yoter Al Rachpo Batim V'Chatzer P'Tukol Tocho Ezu Hichatzer She'enon Yoter Lech v'Korah Elo V'Pas Arba Kol Sh'Merba. Rama says the tradition states that which mavoi you're allowed to use Lech and Korah to fix. That's only when it is longer than it is wide, and there are houses and courtyards that open up into it. And which is a chatzer that a Lech and Korah will not work, but you'd have to use a piece of wood, a board of 4 tachim. That's when if it's square, because then it's not considered to be a mavoi. It's more considered to be a courtyard, therefore it's square. Rabad in agulo. Wait, so is it only a case of a square? What about if it's circular? Halikamar. Iorka yoter al rochba habe le mavoi. Brother, this is what it means to say. That if it's longer than it is wide, it's considered to be a mavoi. Mavoi belechi v'korah sagya. Below habe lechatzer. So if it's longer than it is wide, that's the definition of a mavoi. On the other hand, if it's but if it's not a mavoi, then it's called a chatzer. A comma. So how big is it? So how much is the difference between the length and the width? So Sever Shmuel Meimar Adika Pishnaim Baruch. So how much is that? So Shmuel says it has to be 2 times as long as it is wide. Amar Le Rav Hachi Amar Chavivi Afilu Mashu. So Rav says I heard from Chavivi, my uncle, that actually any amount, as long as it's longer than it is wide. Yeshua Bishmael Amar Talmid Echad. Right, so this basically we're going back to the Mishnah now. Machlokah between question about what the dispute was between Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai, and when about an alleyway that's narrow. So, right. So whether it's if it's 4, does it need one or does it not need one? So Rabbi Kiva Haim Tanakama. So is Rabbi Kiva the same as Tanakama? Yikibanayu Darbachlai. Bitim Rabbi Chia. Blomasayim. So there's an argument whether the question is was it said there Brachlai or said Rabbi Chiel, whether or not that if it's 4 handbreadths wide, you don't need to fix anything because it's considered to be wood. However, we're not entirely sure, so therefore you can't determine what it is. Tanya Rabbi Kiva. Lo Amar Rabbi Yishmael Davar Zeh, Ela Oto Talmid Amar Davar Zeh, V'Halacha Oto Talmid. So Rabbi Kiva said Rabbi Yishmael did not state this. Rather, it was stated by a student who stated it on his own, and also according to the student, not according to Rabbi Yishmael. Haguvakasha Amar Lo Amar Rabbi Yishmael Davar Zeh. You didn't say Rabbi Yishmael didn't say it. Alma late Hilchatak Vatev Hadar Amar Tafkat Talmid. Wait, so if the Talmud made a mistake and said the wrong thing, and it's not the opinion of the Rebbe, then why is halacha like that Talmud? Amar Yud, Amar Shmuel, Lo Amar Rabbi Akiva, Ela Lachadid Ba Talmud. So Rabbi Yehuda said, no, he only said it to sharpen the minds of the students, i.e., he was encouraging them to say they had their own opinions to say it, but not that he actually thought the halacha was like the Talmud and over the Rabbi Shmuel. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Amar Nir Ian Itmar. So Rambam says otherwise to say is that the opinion of the Talmud made sense. So it's reasonable that mean that you could accept it. So Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Kol Makom Sha'atam Motzei Mishum Yishmael Amar Talmid Echad L'nei Rabbi Kiva Eno Ela Rabbi Meir Neshimish Rabbi Yishmael ben Rabbi Kiva. So if we say that whenever we use the term of the Talmud, or so that means that Mishum Rabbi Yishmael Amar Talmid Echad Rabbi Kiva. So because that the name of Rabbi Yishmael, a certain Talmud told this Rabbi Kiva, so that Talmud is Rabbi Meir, because he served both and was a servant of both Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Kiva. Tanya, we learned in Raisa. Amar Rabbi Meir, Shayiti Eitz Rabbi Yishmael, Haiti Metil Kan Katom Matoch Hadio, Below Amar Li Davar. So as Rabbi Meir says, when I was by Rabbi Yishmael, I used to add iron sulfate kankantom into the ink when I wrote Torah scrolls, and he didn't say anything. But when I came to Rabbi Akiva, he said that I can't do that. He needs this really so. V'hamar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel Mishum Rabbi Meir. K'sheitu lo mein Eitzar Rabbi Akiva. Hiti metil kankatom v'dochot dio v'lo mar ledavar. So now the Gemara is giving a reverse of the story where he used to do something by Rabbi Akiva, he didn't get corrected. Then when he came from Ishmael, and then he did this, and then he asked him, "What's your job?" Amarli lavlar, and he said that I'm. And then he responded, I'm a scribe." So Amarli Bani Havizayim Maltecha Shemaltecha Malach Shemaim He Shemata Mechaser Odachat Omiater Odachat Nimseit Machariv Et Kolam Kolam. And then Rabbi Shmuel then asked what the judge said that he said, "Scribe, be careful at your work, because your work is the work of heaven. And maybe if you do one mistake, either one less letter, one too many letters, it's as if you destroyed the whole world." So Amartilo, Davar Achad Yesh Li V'Kangatom Shmo. I have something called Kangatom, iron sulfate. Shani Matil Tochdio. They used to put into the thing. Amarli V'Chimat Lin Kangatom Tochdio. And he said, "Wait, you're putting in there? You can't do that because if you add the iron sulfate to it, you can't erase it anymore. So therefore, you can't use that because we learned that it has to be erasable as learned in Parsha Sota. So my comment, wait, so what did Shmuel say to there? And what is he answering? Like, what does this mean? Can or can't he? How come? They don't even say. So it's not, the question wasn't really about whether or not there's letters or whether you spell a letter in full or in short, right? Because because you knew that already. Rather, even in regards to the concern that a fly might come on and lie down the parchment. Dilmati Biyativ Atage de Dalet Umachik Le Umashavile Reish. So maybe he was worried that if he wrote a Dalet and then it was blotted out, then a fly might come and land on the crown and blot it out, render it from a Dalet to a Reish. So he's saying that I'm not concerned because why not? So add that to it. There's no worry. I don't have to worry anymore of a fly coming and smudging it. Kasha shimush shimush kasha astra astra. Wait, so this is a problem because then the question is who do you serve first? Rabbi Meir, did Rabbi Meir serve Rabbi Akiva first, Rabbi Shmuel first? And who's the one who said that it is problematic? Was that Rabbi Akiva or was it Rabbi Yehuda? So sorry, or Rabbi Shmuel. Bishlam Shimush Shimush Lakasha Mekara Atar Lakamed Rabbi Akiva Midlam Matzla Mekamali Bay Atlamed Rabbi Shmuel Gemara Bahadar Atar Lakamed Rabbi Akiva Smartzar. So we can solve the problem of the order because maybe Rabbi Meir initially came and served before Rabbi Akiva, and since he didn't understand Rabbi Akiva, he then went to Rabbi Shmuel and studied tradition from him. And afterwards, he went to learn Rabbi Akiva and studied logical analysis. Basically, he went Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shmuel, and then Rabbi Akiva, learning different things each time because initially Rabbi Akiva was too complex. So we had to go back to learn the basics of Rabbi Shmuel before you understand Rabbi Akiva's teaching. Ella Asper Kasha. So what about whether Rabbi Akiva prohibited or Rabbi Shmuel prohibited it? That's the problem. So Kasha, you're at the problem. Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Omer Rabbi Meir Haya Omer Lakol Matelin Kankatom Tafadio Chutmi Parashat Sota. So we have write the name of Rabbi Yehuda and the name of Rabbi Meir that you can always add Kankatom iron sulfate into ink Chutmi Parashat Sota except for the Parashat Sota it has to be able to be erased. Rabbi Akiva Omer Mishmel Rabbi Yaakov Omer Mishmel Chutmi Parashat Sota Shel Mikdash. So Rabbi Yaakov says no, only the Parsha of the Sota used to write in the base of Mikdash, but in general, there's no problem writing with iron sulfate makes it into thing. Why benai? What's the difference? Amar Yehuda limchok la minatora ikabenai. The question is whether or not if you're the machlokes is you're allowed to erase the passage of Sota in the Torah, or is it only you're allowed to erase the patches of the Torah about Sota in the context of when you're testing the Sota and the Sota waters. Hani Tanai, Ki Hani Tanai. And these Tanaim argue with those, but it's the same time. But it's the same Tanaim between both cases. That's the Tanya. Ein Megillah tak sheira lashkot basota acharet. That this Megillah Sota is only good for this Sota, not for the other one. Rabbi Achai bar Yoshia Amar Megillah tak sheira lashkot basota acharet. Whereas Rabbi Achai says the water prepared for this squirrel is okay for this one or another one. I.e., it's not written for a particular Sota, it's written generally. So similarly for Torah, you don't write for this person, it's a general one. Somewhere Papa Dilma Lovi, maybe this is not the correct. Adkalakam Tanakama Hata Melakivan the Intik Lushum Rachel Shuat Dramical Shumlea Avaka Torah to some Mektova Hakina Mechakina. No. So maybe they're saying that it's different because for the scroll rank for Sota it's originally intended for only one woman. For instance, let's say for Rachel, and it can't be designated, it's for Leah instead. But the Torah is written stuff for not originally for it's innocently written. So therefore it would not disqualified for one or the other. So Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Dilma Lodi. This is the case. Adkan Lakama Rabbi Achai bar Yoshia Hatam Ela deIchtiv Miat L'Shum Sota Ba'olam. Aval Gabe Torah Delhit Lamek Tiva Hachinamid Lo Machakina. So Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says maybe this isn't the case. Rather, until this point, what Rabbi Achai bar Yoshia said there is saying that if it was written for the same of a Sota in this world, then that's sufficient. However, in the case of the Sefer Torah is written for study, there too you would say that you don't erase it. The late later Meir Achai bar Nan Katav Get like Arish Lishtao. Ben Ira Obamar Shimchak Shmiyah Veshim Kishti Vapasl Galar Lagarishba. So we're saying, is this really the case? Because we can probably case by getting that if somebody had written a get to divorce his wife, and then he decides he doesn't want to, and somebody else in the city says, my name is yours, my wife's name is yours name. So let me use it to divorce the wife. We say it's no good for using for Yerushin. Okay, Hash is really the same thing. Hatam by getting it says Chatav La Kati V'inam Kivashma. By getting you need to write the divorce paper, the get, specifically for that woman. But by our case, Vasala Kiv V'ina Astia Lashma Astia Dida Machigahi. Right. So rather, but by our case of Sota. As in, it means that you could have done it. It says, you'll do it for her. Therefore, you're going to perform her name. And in this case, the performance isn't the writing, rather, it's the erasing. However, the scroll for the Sota does not need to be written in her name. Amar B'Yacha Bar Chanina, Galui V'Adun L'Fnei Misha Amar V'Haya Ha'olam She'ein B'Dorosh L'Vimer K'moto L'Fnei Ma Lo Kavu Halach K'moto. So Rav bar Chanina said that it's obvious to everyone. Sorry, basically it's clear to God that nobody was greater than Rabbi Meir. So then why is it that the halacha is not like Rabbi Meir in every case? Because probably that his friends didn't understand his saras. They couldn't understand his thought process. Shu Omer al tamei tahor amar lo panim, al tahor tamei amar lo panim. So he would say about what would he used to do? He used to talk about something that's tamei and called tahor, and explain why. And then he would say on the something that's tahor or less tamei, and he would explain why. But they were unable to distinguish why the cases were different. Tana. Or Rabbi Meir Shmo Ela Rabbi Norai Shmo. Rabbi Meir didn't Rabbi Meir for Rabbi Norai. Lamini Krash Shmo Rabbi Meir. Why is the name called Rabbi Meir? Even if his real name is Norai. So Shehu Meir and Yechachamim Balacha, because he used to enlighten the Chachamim and Halacha. Lo Norai Shmo Ela Rabbi Nechem Shmo. Isn't it really Norai? His name is really Rabbi Nechem. Bamri La Rabbi Elazar Ben Arach Shmo. Or his real name is Rabbi Elazar Ben Arach. Lamini Krash Shmo Norai. Why was he then called Norai? Sheman Hier and Yechachamim Balacha, because he enlightens the name the sages matters of Halacha. Okay, so one difference to do. So you could translate Meir as illuminating and Nahorai as enlightening, or a different thing. They're both the saying that he was enlightening the Chachamim. So Amar Rabbi, Hi de Mechadadna Mechavre de Chazite Rabbi Meir me'acharei v'ilu chazite mekamei habu machadadon atzvei dechtiv hayu enecha ra'ot et morecha. So Rabbi Yehuda Nasi said, the fact that I am sharper than my friends is because I remain from behind, i.e., I was a student, and if I had seen him from the front, I would have been even more sharp, as is written. Your eyes should see your teacher. Seeing one teacher's see the faces of one teacher increases understanding even further. Amar Bival, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Tamid Haya Lo Rabbi Meir V'Sumchos Shmo. So Ravo, the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that Rabbi Meir had a Talmud named Sumchos. Haya Omer Al Kol Davar V'Davar Shal Tuma Abra'im U'Shmona Tamei Tuma. You said anything that's Tamei 48 reasons. Al Kol Davar. Val Kol Davar Shal Tara Abra'im U'Shmona Tamei Tara. And for anything that is Tahor, he'd also give 48 reasons in support of it. Tana, Tamid Batik, Hayab Yavna, Shayam Taher, Desheretz, B'mei V'chamishim Tamim. So the Beit there's one distinguished disciple Yavna who was Matar the Sheretz 150 reasons. Amar Ravina, Ani Adon Matarenu. Rabbi Ravina said, I will do so. Manachash Memit Tumar Tumah. Just like Inachash kills and increases Tumah, Tahor, it itself is Tahor. I touch a dead snake, you're not Tameh. Sheretz, Sheinu Mamit, Tumar Tumah, local Shkin. So a Sheretz, a creepy animal that does not kill anybody, of course it wouldn't be Tameh. Lohi Masakot Ba'amakavid. Right? This is not a valid argument, rather, right? That's not really true because a snake is like a thorn, so therefore, right, for instance, let's say a thorn that does the same act isn't considered ritually impure, so therefore you can't say that a snake, which only basically the injury that it causes is similar to a thorn, also is not killing anybody. It potentially can. So you can't compare them. So it's not about kol v'chomer. So Amar Rabbi Abba bar Amar Shmuel, Shalosh Shanim Nechlaku Beit Sham Beit Hillel, Halalo Amrim Halkamotenu, Halalo Amrim Halkamotenu. So Rabbi Abba name of Shmuel says for 3 years Beit Sham and Beit Hillel were arguing, each of them saying like them. Yatz Bakal v'Amra Elu v'Elu Divrelim Chayim v'Halachak Beit Hillel. And then a voice sounded out from heaven, stating that these and these are the words of the living God, but halacha is like Beit Hillel. And since they're both considered to be words of the living God, they're both words of the living God, and then why is halacha like Beit Hillel and Bishai? So why does halacha end up being like Beit Hillel as opposed to Beit Shammai? It's because they were agreeable and forbearing. They were very polite when they would do it. They would teach both their statements and that of Beit Shammai, and the more so they would show respect to the opinions of Beit Shammai by putting their opinions first. Kodesh Shaninu. And we see this in this case, in this Mishnah. Somebody who has a majority of his head body in the sukkah, but the table was in his house. Beit Shammai postlin Beit Hillel makshirin. Beit Shammai says no good, Beit Hillel says it works. Hello, Beit Shammai. So was not the case once that Shahal was nicknamed Beit Shammai nicknamed Beit Hillel Lakir at Rabbi Yochanan ben Choranit. So it's not the case that once the elders of Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel went to visit Rabbi Yochanan ben Choranit, and they found he was sitting with his head most of his body in the sukkah, but his table was in the house. Amru lahen Beit Shammai misham raya avhen amru lo im kachi taheg lo kiyamta mitzvah sukkah memecha. So the response being is that if that case really happened like that, what we definitely said back then is they were told Rabbi Yochanan that if you have always been eating your sukkah this way, you have never been fulfilled the mitzvah of sukkah in your entirety of your life. Okay, so that's an example where Beit Hillel is teaching Beit Shammai's opinions first. This is the teacher, whoever makes himself lower and humbles himself, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will raise him up, and whoever raises himself up, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will humble him. Whoever chases after greatness, greatness will escape him. Those who run away from greatness, greatness will follow them. So, a similar contrast. We have anyone who attempts to force the moment, the moment will force him to, i.e., won't work. However, if somebody's patient and lets for the time to be right, then the time he'll be successful because the time will allow him to have work. Things have worked. Taner Rabbanan. So we stated in the Beit that for 2.5 years, Hashem had an argument. Hello, Amr Noach lo Adam Shalom Nivra Yoter Mishnivra. Hello, Amr Noach lo Adam Nivra Yoter Mishnivra. The question is man better off having been created? As one opinion, one is saying that man is better off never having existed. Another one saying that man is better off for having been created. So ultimately, they counted and they concluded that Noach lo Adam shelo nivra yoter mishnivra achshav shenivra yoshet masa. So then they asked around, they did the number of people who were the Midrash, and they discovered that better to the person who was never created more than the person who was created. But since you've already been created, you should be careful and examine your actions. You must or either he should examine or he should scrutinize very intensely. Okay, so that's it for today, and tomorrow we will continue with the Mishnah on the bottom of the Gimel and Bet.